upstairs and the roundabout. Let's just vote on it.
Conning hearing where consideration of the vote goes in.
The only reason I caught is that two people with their hands up, and figured that they might have either somewhere debate or more questions about it, especially two people that don't really speak about it too much in the first place. So I'm just giving them the benefit if they'd like to speak.
We'll now be voting on whether or not to allow someone to reconsider their vote. All those in favor of allowing someone to reconsider their vote? All those against? Vote count of 9 to 2, this passes. We'll now be voting on MSC Funding Board, whether or not to zero fund to MSC Funding Board. All those in favor? All those opposed? The vote count of 6 to 5, this passes. The MSC Funding Board has been zero funded.
Rate that does not reach majority. She can't afford to. She can't look at that. She doesn't have to.
Those in.
Move to approve line 70.
Is there a motion to approve line 70? Are there any objections? This, right?
I just, sorry, I couldn't see it.
Is there a motion to approve line 70? Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll now be voting on line 70. All those in favor? All those opposed? Vote count of 8 to 2, this passes. Miller.
Move to go to the SGA legislative branch.
Is there a motion to go to the SGA legislative branch? Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll be on SGA legislative.
Move to add, what was there, 85,000? Move to add 85,000 to the Senate Working Fund, making that, sorry, it was somewhere.
245,000.
245,000 to the Senate Working Fund.
Is there a motion to amend line 160, $245,000? Are there any objections?
I object.
Seeing objections to withdraw. Now being debated, Miller.
Okay. By zero funding the MSC Funding Board, basically there's some organizations now that are going to need some money. They're going to be going through FAO at this point, so we're going to need to allocate that money into the Senate Working Fund so they can come and receive that funding. But I'm interested to hear.
I'd like to know what the demand on both accounts are, because I think both accounts have extra money, so I'd rather put some in CRT and keep some in FAO if that's what we're gonna do. But because I think both accounts don't have the demand, so if we're gonna do this, just put it where you guys want to put it for. So Chisholm, do you know how much money each account is using and how much surplus they have?
Chisholm.
The allocated amount by MSC to date of this fiscal year is $71,237. So far they've used a little under 72 grand. It was at 85 in the MSC, so I would say we need to add, and based on what's being reverted from the working fund, unfortunately I don't have my report from yesterday. I think it was, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. All right, yeah, the working fund currently has a little over $101,000, so I would say 60.
Meantime, Solano.
I mean, I think it's in the right place. The money's going to the same people. They just have to take a different avenue to get there. It's not like Miller was taking the money and giving it to us. It's going to the same people. They just now have to go through FAO, so it's just a different avenue.
And I understand that, but with the demand that we've seen this year, I mean, if we're now placing money over in this account, I think with the demand we've seen, it would be more appropriate if it was maybe split up a little bit, because we haven't seen quite, the one for people to come to the working fund. It's been more through the registration of travel. I think putting some money in a registration of travel might be a little bit more appropriate.
All right, based on rough projections, assuming that FAO spends an additional $10,000 in the remainder of this fiscal year, which I think is pretty on par, and then $80,000 from the MSC with a $30,000 buffer, that reaches $170,000. So if you want to use that as a ballpark number of, you probably, I'd say $170,000 in the working fund between the MSC funded and the Senate funded is probably a fair number, which means if you add in all 85,000 to the working fund, you're gonna hit a lot higher than that, which is 245, yeah. So I would say you could definitely safely transfer at least $45,000 to another place, and you would have the exact same funding, more funding levels next year.
Miller.
May I retain?
Yes.
I understand what the council are saying, but I stand by my original motion. I think that I echo the sentiments of Chair Solano. We took it from MSC, we're gonna get it back in FAO, and I'll be as good.
In a motion to vote, are there any objections?
Yes, I was wrong.
So right.
I think the idea of it, if we put it in FAO, and FAO has extra money anyway, that it was in the MSC for cultural-based programming. I know I just said CRT a minute ago. I would like to maybe see some money go back into the MSC's programming lines to continue cultural-based programming, because the original intent of the 85 was cultural-based programming of organizations, and if that account could do it, I would almost say put 45,000 toward the MSC to see what other cultural programming they can do on top of it. Before we had the funding board, they had a special, I just had Chair Bishop go up, and they had like a line for special events outside their programming. I maybe want to talk to them about that, maybe they'd want that back. They had 11,000 for special events, 5,000 for workshops, which is no longer there because when the funding board came on, I know we questioned some of their programming because of over-programming. If we're going to do it this way, and the MSC's not going to be involved in that, they might want to continue to do some of those things again, since they are experts in cultural programming. So that's just another sentiment I have in mind.
Peterson?